So the Rebbe, this is the Dvar Malchut. The Rebbe is explaining what we're supposed to look at to see that, in fact, the Mashiach is already here, the revelation, the Geula, the redemption is here. We just have to open our eyes and see it. So the Rebbe gives us one example, and he says one example is France. So I just want to repeat this again, what I said before. This is sort of a revelation to me. I'm learning these discourses of the Rebbe a little more and more. I'm thinking about it, and I have big questions that have not been answered. And I hope that I'm always hope that I'm going to find the answers to this. My big question, of course, is that the Rebbe says the redemption already come, and I am a very adamant follower of the Rebbe, and I believe very firmly and certain that everything that the Rebbe says is true. That the Rebbe has never made a mistake, that's pretty, that's a pretty bold statement to make. But if you investigate and you look and see, you have to like really, really twist things around in order to interpret that maybe the Rebbe said something and he didn't mean it. I've never heard of anything. And I've never heard of, the Rebbe has a lot of enemies, but I never heard of anybody come up with even one example that holds water, at least, even that holds even a little bit of water. Okay, so the Rebbe said the redemption is here, and the Geula is here, and the Maimonides has all these criteria for Mashiach, and the Rebbe fills all the criteria for the Mashiach. So here it is. The Rebbe is here, and the Mashiach is here, and the Geula is here. But the world is filled with all sorts of terrible problems. And things are just getting worse and worse and worse. I don't know. Maybe it's getting better and better. But so I made up all these explanations that I'm trying to explain that. It's like somebody gets in an accident and the doctor says he's okay, he's going to be all right. And you look at him and he's all these tubes everywhere and he's unconscious. And the doctor says, listen, you have to believe me. I'm telling you it's okay. Okay. But now I just want to say one more thing over here. Here we have the war between Napoleon and the Tsar. The Tsar was terrible for the Jews. They were open anti-Semites. They wanted to, like the church, they want to destroy Judaism by any means possible, by being nice guys, by being severe guys, whatever it is. All they want, that's the whole goal of the whole being, is just to put an end to Judaism. They don't say it's for that, to redefine Judaism, right? Redefine Judaism, right? It's like somebody, you buy a car from somebody, you go and the guy has a goat. What is this? That's a car. What do you mean it's a car? It's a car. Where are the wheels? Oh, these things, these legs, they're not legs. I redefined it. That's called wheels. What are you talking about? We're just supposed to sit inside of it. No. That's the old definition of car. This is the new definition of car. This is a car. You sit on this car. Where's the steering wheel? Here you have these, right? It's like the church came and they redefined Judaism, right? No, God, that doesn't mean God. God means something else. It's not, I'm telling you, this is, okay, it's ridiculous, right? So the church is the big enemy of Judaism. Napoleon was the big friend of Judaism. Napoleon said, I'm going to put an end to all anti-Semitism. The Jews are going to be equality, fraternity. We're all going to be brothers, right? The liberty, you're going to be free. You can want to learn Torah, I'll even support you. Napoleon was wonderful for the Jews, wonderful, spoke wonderfully about the Jews. And the first Rebbe of Chabad was against Napoleon. The first Rebbe, he was known as Napoleon. Okay, first of all, that doesn't make much sense because Napoleon was good for the Jews. Why would he oppose it? Not only that, all of the other great rabbis of the time, the Hasidic rabbis, the good friends of the first Rebbe of Chabad, they were all for Napoleon. All of them. And the first Rebbe of Chabad, he was the only one that was against. Only one was against Napoleon. Why could it be? So I think the answer to me is a very clear answer now. This is, I think, the big point the Rebbe is trying to make. And Mashiach is going to bring a world, a change in the world for the Jewish people, incomparably greater and more miraculous than the Jews going out of Egypt. When the Jews got out of Egypt, everything was wonderful, like Napoleon wanted to make. Everything wanted to. We're coming now to the holiday of Hanukkah, the same thing. The Greeks were friends with the Jews. They didn't make big problems with the Jews. The Jews loved the Greeks. The Jews loved the Greeks. But what it was good for the Jews physically. Spiritually, they could do whatever they wanted to, but they didn't pay any attention to the spiritual part of it. The dominance was on the physical. Dominance was the same thing when they got out of Egypt. The dominance was we are politically free. We are out. We are free. We're not under the Egyptians anymore, right? Same thing with Napoleon. We are free. We can do whatever we want. You can learn with Torah. You can learn anything you want to. The problem was there was no emphasis put on the Jewish soul. There was no emphasis put on the connection between the Jews and God, loving God, fearing God. There was no connection. There was no connection to the Jewish identity. Jews were like everybody else. Everyone's equal, right? Everyone's equal. But the fact is, everyone is not equal. The Jews are different. The Jews are essentially different from everybody else. When the Jews left Egypt, they got everything that they wanted to, but they didn't feel the uniqueness of the Jewish people. They wanted to go back to Egypt. They wanted comfort. They wanted basically to be like everybody else. That was also the goal of Zionism. We're going to be like everybody else. We're going to be like everybody else. And the first Rebbe of Chabad was the only one that said, I don't want the Jews to suffer. I don't want the Jews to be uncomfortable. I want the Jews to be free. But the main emphasis has to be the Jewish identity, the Jewish soul. And for that, it's worth suffering. It's worth everything in the world. The Jewish soul has to be brought out. That's the future redemption. When that's fixed up, everything gets fixed up. As soon as the Jewish soul gets fixed up, Jewish identity, then everything will fall in place. So if you see in the world that there's troubles, there's problems, it's right, it's terrible that there's problems. But the soul from inside, it's healing. Jewish identity is coming out. That's the point. And that was the thing of France. France was opposed to Jewish identity. It was all in favor of Jewish freedom and Jewish equality and Jewish this, but it was opposed to Jewish identity. The Jews are different. The Jews are God's people. That what it was against. And the Jews were willing to agree, okay, just leave me alone. I'll serve God in my house. What's the big problem? I have to be different there. You got a good point. Why should I be different, right? It says nowadays it's changing. And who started the big change in a big way was, of course, the first Rebbe of Chabad. And the previous Rebbe, Yesh Lomo, we can say that the power to do this, to change, to bring out Jewish identity, the love of God, the connection to God, the, how do you say, unconditional faith and belief in the creator of the universe, like Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob gave. This was by the previous Rebbe himself. The previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, Makomom, his set place where he was in Russia. All the Rebbes of Chabad, they were in Russia until the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe. Afilu, it was Medina's Russia and Russia. Afilu kasher, even when they went out from Russia, occasionally they would go out from Russia. Yeah, okay. Kasher Yatsu, even when they went out temporarily, occasionally from Russia, this was begun by the fourth Rebbe of Chabad, the Rebbe Morash. He traveled out to France and other places in order to have influence over there on the Jews that were there, on the governments that were there. It was only temporary. And it was only to come back to Russia. Eitzel Nasi Dorenu, by the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, that he is the leader of our generation. The Rebbe always said, our Rebbe always said, I am just an extension, I'm just a continuation, our Rebbe. I'm just a continuation of the previous Rebbe. Let's just have a picture about the previous Rebbe one more time, just so that we know we're talking about a human being. Here we go. Here. Here. This is the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe. Right? Previous Lubavitcher Rebbe. And more pictures. No. I don't want to get confused over here. Here's a picture of the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe sitting with the Rebbe, his two son-in-laws, and Rebbe Garari. This is a previous Lubavitcher Rebbe. Famous picture of him. Okay. Says the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, he was the first one to leave Russia permanently. By the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, he was the first one that left Russia permanently. He went in other countries. First of all, he went to Latvia, and then he was in Poland for most of the time, and then he went to America. Well, Bechlolos in general, Hayu Beshanot Nisiato, in the years that he was the leader, the previous Rebbe, he was the he was the leader of Chabad for 30 years, from 1920 until 1950. The first 10 years of his life, you can divide it into 3 periods of 10. It was, in general, 10 years. The first 10 periods of life was from 1920 to 1930, was mainly in Russia. 1929 was in Russia. The second was from 1930, anyway, from 1930 until 1950. I'm sorry, from 1930 until 1940, the beginning of Second World War. He was in the bombing of Poland, of Warsaw. That's how the Second World War began. The Germans attacked Poland. They conquered Poland. That was the beginning, basically. And so he was there, and he left. So from 1920 to 1930, he was in Russia. From 1930 to this is approximate. It was 1929. From 1930 until 1940, he was in Poland most of the time, in Poland. And the third, from 1940 to 1950, he passed away in 1950, was in Artsut Abrit, was in America. According to what we said before, that every place you have to go according to the customs of that place as much as you can, according to the Torah. If they don't oppose the Torah, you should go according to the customs. Hayu Shinuim, there was changes from one place to another, how he spread out Judaism in Russia, how he did it in Poland, and how he did it in America. Yesh Lomar, we can say, Shahoyel, since that by means of the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe himself he was in the world in different ways. And Russia was different from Poland, and it's different from America. Russia was, first of all, the place where the fathers of Chabad were. One of the reasons that the Rebbe, briefly, like for 2 weeks, when he left Russia, he went to Israel first for 2 weeks, and then he went to America for like almost a year. And then he came back to Poland. He stayed there for like 10 years. He said the reason that he went to Israel was because that he wanted to pray at the graves of his forefathers in Russia, but they wouldn't let him back into Russia. So instead, he went to pray at the grave of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Like we see, okay, that's the whole novelty of our generation over the first Rebbe of Chabad. Like when see in relation to France. France is the main, how do you say, the litmus test, the thermometer. That's going to measure the difference. Listen to this. After the first Rebbe of Chabad, the Alter Rebbe, the one who wrote the Tanya, the way that he spread out Torah and he taught in many generations, I'm sorry, that he spread out Torah and he began this idea of spreading out the ideas of Chassidut for all the generations after him. Avoda Shapala, that was brought about a refinement of the whole entire world. And even more, you have to remember, Napoleon basically conquered the whole world as it was back then. the closer we get to the future redemption, that then the world will really be completed. That was by the previous Rebbe. In other words, it started off by the first Rebbe, and it continued spreading out Chassidut more and more and more, having more effect on the soul of the world and also on the physical matter of the world. And the culmination was with the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, Nasi Dorena, the leader of our generation, that he added on even more, that he brought a mainly refinement in France. And in general, Hitchilat Avoda, the main service of even though the refinement of France was begun by the fourth Rebbe of Chabad, Rebbe Shmuel, like it's known that he traveled many times to France and he made over there Bali Tshuva, which maybe that's the story I'll tell today. In addition to this, that he also spoke all over there and he thought ideas of Chassidut, and afterwards even more by means of the Rebbe Rishab, the son of the fourth Rebbe of Chabad, the fifth Rebbe, that he also was in France many times, until even more in a city of Mantan, that there was actually a building. He built the whole series of Maimorim, like 2 full books of Maimorim, which began in Tuf Reish Ayin Beit. What's Tuf Reish Ayin Beit? Is 1900. Is that right? 1902. Is that right? No, 1912. 1912. Which is known. And also over there, he wrote a little bit of this long Maimon. It's a very long the Hasidic discourse that covers like 2 books. It's explaining these deep, wonderful ideas in Hasidut and in the Jewish soul, etc. He began to write that in France. But the main true refinement of France, in a way that it was permanent, that Judaism was spread out in a permanent way, they established yeshivas, was by the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe. Now again, I just want to stress this again. The spreading out of Chassidus is not as impressive as going out of Egypt. The Moshiach is not going to be as grandiose as the miracles that happened when the Jewish people left Egypt. When the Jewish people left Egypt, there was the 10 plagues and the splitting of the sea, and bread came from heaven and water came from a rock, and the Jewish people were surrounded by clouds of glory, right? And God gave the Torah and the whole world shook and everything like that. It's not going to be that way in the future. It's going to be bigger. It's going to be bigger. What does it mean it's going to be bigger? It's going to be from the essence of the soul. The essence of the soul, like I said that in the beginning of the class. The essence of the soul of not just the Jewish people, of the whole world will change. And automatically, there won't be any more war, and there won't be any more evil, there won't be any more, until eventually there won't even be any more death. We don't know how dependent the world is, how affected the world is by our attitude. Our attitude has a tremendous physical effect on the world. We see Adam, the first man, he ate from the tree and he brought death to the world. There's nothing more ugly and repulsive than death. Death is just, you see a dead body, a dead animal, or whatever. It smells bad. You get it out of the house. It's such a terrible thing, death. There wouldn't be any more death in the world. There wouldn't be death in the world if Adam hadn't eaten from the tree. It could be maybe even animals wouldn't die. Just a little tiny thing. He just had a little attitude and he changed, right? His attitude, I want to do what I want. And he did a little thing. He ate from a tree. It's such a big deal. And that made such a massive, terrible, drastic change in the world. How much more so when our attitude changes for good. And that's what Chassidut comes to do. To change our attitude toward the world for a different way. It's God's world, it's not our world. And then the world will start to be the way God wanted it to be. So that's what the previous Rebbe did. He began, especially his effect on France. France, nobody thought about God in France. You didn't think about France. And if they did, it was in the church, which their whole idea of God is like, you know, how do you say, what's a good word for it? Wrong, for lack of a better word, right? God is only in heaven, and you got to believe in this person. It's idolatry, and that's the best you could do in France. And it was separated from the country. It was only. I share that. Nosaftas, in addition to the fact that in France, that the previous Rebbe was there several times, and he said over there Hasidut, and he said over there also speeches, but he also sent over there emissaries, emissaries even from his own family, that they lived there for several years. And they served God and learning Torah and learning Hasidut. And also he sent there also writings of his Maimorim, of his discourses, and letters of his. The previous Lubavitcher Rebbe. There also he prepared many times for it to be printed, his ideas. Like it's been many times that we talked about how much the advantage of printing things over just writing things. Shahu, handwritten. Shahu Megia Riboy Gadol. When you print something, it reaches much greater crowd than before, which is not the case just handwritten things, manuscripts, that they're only relevant to certain special people. Those people who understand the handwriting and everything. But people that are able to read the handwriting, and especially when you print something new. And that's what the previous Rebbe did. Like, listen, in the time of Rashi was like, what, 900 years ago? How long ago was Rashi? So, Judaism, but the Jews were expelled from France. When you see something printed, people want to look at it. In addition to many words of Torah that he said over there, and they came out to be printed. The previous Rebbe. So if so, what did the previous Rebbe do? In France, he taught Hasidut. In France, he changed the souls of the Jewish people that were in France. In France, he changed the souls of the non-Jewish people. There was available over there actually a real human being that actually really, truly believed in the God that took the Jews out of Egypt. Even if there was one, it's an amazing breakthrough in a permanent way. And not only was that one person there, but he also wrote ideas of Hasidut and learned Torah. This made a refinement in the whole entire world, and especially in France, Holach b'nei Musa, in the customs of France, in the language of France. And this is from the fear of God, and it's done. All these things were done with a healthy fear of God, and how do you say, a happy, special way, all the commandments, in order to make a refinement in the inner way of the world. This was Paratz Derech. It broke through. It was a tremendous breakthrough, and it gave the power to break and to transform the worst types of klippa, of bad that there are in the world. France. So France was the big enemy of Chabad. France was the big enemy of Chabad. And you figure, what's such a big enemy? They were, all the other rabbis were in favor of France. Why? So because they wanted to, to extinguish or to cover up the essence of the soul of the Jewish people. To make godliness, second class. You want God, go for God, but that's not the main thing. The main thing is you, yourself, your life, your pleasures, your equality, your fraternity, your this. That's the main thing. You want to be Jew, religious, be religious. And the whole idea of Chabad is a Jew says the main thing is God. God is the king of the universe. He's creating the universe. God is infinitely good. God is infinitely valuable. You want to feel true goodness, true love, true value. That's in Torah. That's in the commandments. That's in the commandment. Then after that, you want to have a good time. Have a good time, but it has to be according to the Torah. Nothing wrong with having a good time. But it has to be according to the Torah is the main thing. Judaism is the main thing. Your love of God is the main thing. Feeling God's love for us, that's the main thing. And that was totally, I would say, taboo in France. Taboo. That wouldn't give how do you say, a passport to such a thing, to come into France. And the previous Rebbe brought it in there. He brought it in that France actually God was accessible, the love of God was accessible, the feeling of the goodness of God was accessible, of the goodness of the Torah in France. The total complete revelation of this feeling of godliness was done by the previous Rebbe, that the Rebbe also took with him when he came to America. America is what's called the bottom part of the world, because the Torah was given in Israel. That's the top part of the world. And the bottom part is called Chetzi Kadura Tachton. There in France, he made a yeshiva in Tomchei Tamimim in Brenoir. I was there, and other institutions. And he appointed and he made shluchim, emissaries over there, that they should make institutions and to spread out Torah and Judaism, Bechlal in general, and Hasidut especially. Ukafisha Roim, like we see clearly, Ubafrat, and especially in the last years, at Tatzlacha, the tremendous success. And the Rebbe is speaking now, this is what, 1991, the tremendous success of spreading Torah and Judaism and Hasidut in France and other countries as well, in a way that it increases and makes more and more light. Ad until a way, in addition to the fact that the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, he gave the power to draw holiness in this physical world. This can be only when but the previous Rebbe made it in a way that holiness came, so to speak, from him. This gave the power that in this place itself should be a place of Torah. There's Maimorim in Chassidut to talk about the difference between the first and the second temples and the third temple. What's going to be in the time of the third temple? So it says the first and the second temple was that godliness shined to the whole world from the temple. It shined to the whole world from Israel. The world felt godliness from the Holy Land. The third temple, it's going to be that the Holy Land will spread out over the whole world, which means not that there's going to cease to be borders of Israel. The land of Israel will be clearly defined. What our borders are. Not like now. It'll be clearly defined what it is. Politically. What does it mean the land of Israel will be all over the world? The whole world will feel godliness coming from itself. Every Gentile will feel God personally is creating me. He loves me. I am important to God. Every Gentile will feel it. Every human being. It says even the rocks in the ground will feel it. And that was begun by the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe. That the holiness of France came first of all from the Rebbe, from Yahweh, until finally the place itself became a source of Torah. And this was by means of founding the yeshiva of Tomchei Tamimim over there, just like it was in Lubavitch. Ke'ilu, as though that it was that France itself became a source of Judaism. And it didn't need any more inspiration from the Rebbe, from this, because France became holiness. That's what it means, that Israel is going to spread out to the whole world. The whole world will feel godliness like Israel does. The Nosaf Lazah, in addition to that, that they even print over their words of Torah, revealed Torah, Hasidut, including also new interesting ideas in Torah, right? They ask interesting questions, come up with interesting answers. This is also stressed how France has become a source for Torah to the whole entire world. So true, maybe the result, what we're talking about, is not as dramatic and as impressive as, let's say, going out of Egypt or whatever, but says the Rebbe, but it's more essential. It's more essential. Just like the soul of a man is the main thing of a man. You don't see the soul. All you see is his body. But to change the soul, that's the big thing. That here they changed the soul of France. Yochanan Lilmod, all of a sudden they printed ideas, books of Hasidut in France, and you can read the letters. The letters themselves make you wiser. Like we said before, that now what they're doing in France, this is revealing the power. This is coming all from the power of the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe. Nasi Dorenu, the leader of our generation. Previous Rebbe. He invested years of his life and his time that Biota Nasi Ador, that because he was the leader of the whole generation, the previous Rebbe, and it says the leader, the Nasi, the kind of the Nasi, the president of the generation, he is everything. Noten who, therefore, the previous Rebbe gave all of his essence to all the people in the generation that they could make a refinement, not just in France, but in the whole entire world, even in the lowest places, until in that place will be revealed the essence of God in a revealed way, in a personal, deep way. And we can say, Yesh Lomar, we can say that this, especially what we talked about, refining the world, refining the lowest place of the world, and revealing the essence of God in that place, this is also in the word, in the letters of Tzarfat. Tzarfat is the word Tzarfat means to refine, tziruf. This means refining and purifying, clarifying the world. Because it's relevant to the future redemption, like it says in Daniel, right at the end of the book of Daniel, it says, Moshiach comes, yitbararu v'yitlabnu, will be refined and clarified and, how do you say, purified many. That's, by the way, one of the things of the future redemption. It says that all evil will come to the surface. All evil will come to the surface. Shahagula, that the future redemption, it will come by means of a complete revelation of the whole entire world. Well, the Hosif, and to add on, that Tzarfat, the word Tzarfat, is the numerical value of 770. That's the address of the Chabad headquarters in America. It just happens to be, if it wasn't made personally that way, purposely that way, they didn't change it or something like that. It just happened to be that they bought, the previous Rebbe, he bought a building which is on a street which is called Eastern Parkway, and the building right in front of it was 768, and the one after it is 772, and it's in, what is it, the even numbers. So it comes 68, 70, 72. It happened to be 770. It says, yes, it happened to be 770. It happens to be 770 is also the numerical value of the word Tzarfat. Tzadik is 90, Reish is 200, Pei is 80, and Tuf is 400. And so it comes out to be 770. Of course, there is no such thing as accidents. Everything is directed by God. This is the completion of the number 7. There's 7, 700, and 7 tens. Each one is contained with 10, that's 70. And then the number 7, how it is, contained with 100. We can say that this is also hinted at in the refinement of France. When it is finished, completion, the Rebbe is going to say also that 770 is the numerical value of Beit Mashiach, also Beit Mashiach, is completed also. This is completing the whole world, which the world was created in 7 days, in all of its details. And even more, 770 is the number of the house of the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, that there he lived service for the last 10 years of his life in America. And we can say that this is hinted at also at another thing, even higher, refining the world is nosaf, in addition to the refining of the world, but in a way that the lower world becomes the highest. That 770 is a physical house, and it's the house where, so 770 is the numerical value of France, it's also the word, and the word for France also means refinement, siruf. And the Rebbe pointed out before that the word Tzarfat is also the letters of paratzta, spreading out. So this house happens to be the source this is the house from which Judaism and godliness was spread out to the whole world. And we can also add on, this is also especially when it says when you go to a country, you should go according to the customs, that you use the customs and the nature of the place for good, to reveal the essence of that place. Everything is being created by God. Why is God creating France? That's what the previous Rebbe revealed, in a way that you can feel that the place itself becomes a source of godliness. It doesn't depend on coming from somewhere else and spreading godliness, that it itself has yeshivas and places where they learn Torah. It itself spreads out godliness, which is the fact God is creating everything, and everything has a message. That's what's talking about. This shines out the fact of that godliness, that God's existence comes from himself. And so it will be every place in the world, that the very existence of the world will come from itself, so to speak. It'll see why God is creating everything in the world, why everything is important. Everything is important. And everything is not just a cause from something else that's before it. Just like God, you'll feel God in every place. You'll feel everything is essential. And we can say that one depends on the other. In order to make a refinement in the lowest places of the world, you have to have the power from the essence of God, which his existence comes from himself. This is in a way of revelations, in a way of revealing godliness in the world, that there's a difference between the upper worlds and the lower worlds. So you can draw down godliness in a place where there's you can reveal godliness, like the Holy Temple, which is not the case. The essence of God, which is above high and low, it's above spiritual and physical. So spiritual can only be revealed in a place in the world that is a vessel for spiritual. Like television programs can only be revealed in a television. They can't be revealed in a guitar or something like that. It's not the proper vessel. Same thing, spirituality can only be revealed in something which is refined. But the essence of God is creating the whole world. The essence of God can come and refine even the lowest places of the world, that it can be a vessel and reveal the essence of God, because everything is being created by the essence of God. And even more, you can draw down, the essence of God can be revealed even in the lowest places. Every human being, every animal, it says that even the rocks from the walls will yell out, I'm being created by God. And also the other way around. Only by means of the lowest places can be expressed the true essence of what God is, that God is not spiritual. Only the physical world can express what the essence of God is. And that's the whole idea of 770, the previous Rebbe being in the world and revealing the essence of God. That's Moshiach, as we'll talk about more, God willing, tomorrow.